Okay, to get started with our green screen effect and the editing of our green screen clips, I want to go down and scroll through the media that was given out on the flash drives and find the green screen clip you like the best. And a couple of these have some zoom ins, some different angles, some things you need to be aware about. If there is something off the screen, as in the corner of this clip, there is a visible portion that falls off of the green screen, or very dark wrinkles, it's going to be a problem. It's not going to be green screened out the way you would hope it would be. This shot looks a little nicer as there is not a large variation in shadows in the green screen, and it's also not off of the edge. But it's your choice to go through and find a clip that works for your needs and you like the best. There's a fourth clip on here that has a white sheet of paper beneath the bottles. This helps with some of the clear bottles, the clear containers, giving them a more visible appearance. If they're extremely clear, they disappear because the background becomes green, and the bottle can disappear very quickly. As you'll notice later, the clear plastic on this Gatorade bottle will disappear as well because it is very green. Now, what I like to do is I'm going to select a clip. I'm going to find a clip that I want to use. I'm just going to grab the one with the white background. Quite frankly, all of these can work if they are trimmed reasonably. So I'm going to come through this clip and find a section where that hand in the upper left-hand corner is out of the frame and the wrinkles are gone. So I'm just going to actually use this last portion of video, and I'm going to use the blade tool to do this. I can hit the letter B, and the blade tool will come up. If I press and cut that clip, now I have a very small amount of movement. And quite frankly, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna edit this and just cut that even a little bit further. So I'm really gonna have very little movement in my clip. So I'm gonna cut it there and go back to the arrow tool, and I'm gonna trash all of the remainder of this. Now what I'd like to do with this clip is also to make it longer. Right now I just have a very, very short clip. What does it say? 17 frames long, so half a second long roughly. And with that clip selected, I can make this much longer by using the retiming button. If I click down here, I want to slow this down and make this show a lot longer. So I'm going to just start off with a slow motion, which means slow motion at 50%, which doubles the length. And I'm going to stretch this out so that this shows over a few seconds of time. Let's start out by making this project 5 seconds long, and you can see the 5 seconds in the timeline up top here. So I'm right about 5 seconds with the length of this clip. Once that is done, I can close my retiming editor, and when I play through this, it more or less turns into a still image. It's very little movement. You don't notice much change throughout that clip. So this is currently rendering and retiming. It's stretched out that half a second into 5 seconds. Now, an additional thing I'd like to do is drop the audio out of this clip, because this is not a clip that I wish to hear anything from. So I can click the audio bar and drag it to the bottom to where it now no longer has any audio value, and you can notice the audio bars here are not moving. So I've just muted that clip. Now, getting to the green screening. I just prepared the clip. To produce that green screen, we want to click on this effects button, which is the far left of the multiple buttons we've talked through. The effects button has all kinds of different values to apply to your video. For instance, this 50s TV has some characteristics that would make it look like you're watching on an older TV set. Aged paper, again, they're just different effects to apply to the video that is currently being worked on. In our case, we want to come down to a keying effect, and we want to look for the keyer option, which should be, well, the third one down when you first open this up. And I'm going to click and drag that effect directly on top of my video, and you can see it's rendering, it's processing, and getting rid of all of the green that is in my video project. All right, now what I want to do is open the inspector window, which is this button that looks like it has a bunch of slider controls, and when you click on it, you can see why it looks the way it does. It has some very specific controls associated with the keyer effect and also if I scroll down, the video itself, the video clip itself that you're looking and working with. So this is a inspector window. This is where you control with a little more detail the work that you've just done. A few things that you can play with and take a look at. Within the keyer effect, there are a few things. One is for strength. And if you scrub left and right, you can see you can vary how intense this keying effect is applied. By default, it should be up at 100, but you can bring it back a little if you wish to see a little bit more of the bottle's edge. Also, to see a little bit more of the green features, the green text. Sometimes you might want to scroll that back a little bit, and that's where you'll notice the majority of the change. So I'm gonna bring this down a little bit so I can see a little bit more of the bottle, but I definitely want to make sure all of this background is black. So I want to drop it down a little bit to where I can see a little bit more bottle, especially this clear plastic bottle. And I can actually see a little bit more clearly this green text that is on the orange juice bottle. So I dropped it down a little bit from 100. That's one thing you can take a look at. The filling of holes will also bring in some of those features that may have been cut out. It basically enlarges the area that, again, is being cut out. How big of a green area must it be for it to be keyed out? And you can control some of the features, gain a little bit more visibility by varying it as well. For my personal feelings towards this, I'm going to leave this fill down set at 0. Edge distance is the same kind of thing you can take a look at and see if you're getting any values to change when you scrub through this. Edge distance, I don't see a whole lot. If you adjust one of these bars and you don't like the adjustment you made and you're not sure where you started, whether it was at 6 or was it at 0 when you started, in this case, you can hit that little arrow to the right-hand side and hit reset parameter. And in this case, it was at 3 by default, so it'll take it back to its default setting. Okay, that is, again, hit the down arrow and reset the parameter, and it'll send it back to where the default values are. Spill level is going to allow more or less green appearance. It basically controls the value of the color that was being edited out, and you can see there's some green showing up in the bottle here. Depending on the color of the green screen, sometimes this is a tool that you would want to play with slightly, but in this case I want to ignore that slider, and I'm going to reset the parameter. It's going back to 46 by default for me. Alright, once you're done with that, you'll notice it has to render any of those changes out, so it's going to take a second. If you leave your cursor alone, it'll render pretty quickly. So again, that just rendered out. Now we want to apply the video footage that's going to take up this background. In this case, I'm going to go find the video footage. It's actually clip number 15. This was shot for this green screen purpose, and what I'd like to do is place it directly beneath our green screen footage, which means we have this white piece of paper and our bottles floating over top of this background image, which I intentionally blurred out. I intentionally took this out of focus to keep the people's faces, again, as less obvious. You may still be able to identify some classmates, but the goal is not to see the people in the cafeteria. The goal is to get the feel of a cafeteria, maybe some of the audio, the crowd noise of the cafeteria, but it is not to see the people, which are distracting. We want to see the recyclables. In doing this, I'm going to just find the best section of video that I can identify. And again, I'm just looking for something with very little movement in it. In this case, these guys are just sitting here. At one point later down the road, you can see that the guy in the blue sweatshirt turns his back around and turns all the way around to talk to somebody. That's a scene that could get a little funky or messy looking because he's acting out and again can catch your attention. So I'm going to cut this down and just use some of the beginning of the clip where there's very little movement. You've got some people walking in the distance, but the guys at the table are moving very little. From here, I'll take you to keyframing, and the keyframing is going to affect the size of this image that's in the front, the green screen video, if we vary the size of this, we can give an interesting look to it. So that's what I'll use to demonstrate keyframing, but I will, in the next video, give you a quick introduction to what keyframing is.